Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for joining me for today's edition of Arkansas Alive. I think you'll be particularly blessed with this week's teaching as I endeavor to share with you about what is called the Third Great Awakening. What is a Great Awakening? And there's been a first and a second, and now people are saying there's a third Great Awakening. So stay tuned. Arkansas Alive starts right now. Most of the reference to the Third Great Awakening, and keep in mind the First and Second Great Awakenings, as they were called, began in the 1700s through the 1800s. And we've had pockets of revival in this nation and around the world. But an awakening is different than a revival. Now, what is going to take place after we saw the Roe versus Wade overturned by the Supreme Court? An unprecedented event, historical event that happened in our country. And what's going to happen now that we are no longer a nation that is murdering babies in the womb? Now, keep in mind, and I'm going to show you the clip, you've probably seen it before, of the Attorney General signing the documents for Arkansas to trigger its law of no abortion. The Supreme Court decision did not do away with abortion. I want to make this clear because there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of criticism, rioting, etc. On both sides. What the Supreme Court decision to reverse Roe versus Wade did, it made people understand. Even Ruth Ginsburg said, even before she died, years before she died, that she did not believe that Roe versus Wade was a constitutional law. It was unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court simply found that that was the case. So they overturned Roe versus Wade. They reversed it, said it was unconstitutional. So all the Supreme Court decision did was to put back to the states the authority to take the issue of abortion on themselves. It's no longer a national law. It's no longer a right. It's no longer a woman's right to have an abortion. It's no longer protected by the Constitution because they found it unconstitutional. So there are still abortions being performed. There are still states that will be abortion sanctuaries. They will open themselves up. Women will travel to those states and they will have abortions if they so desire. So the Supreme Court law did not do away with abortion. It simply referenced the fact that Roe versus Wade was overturned, reversed, because it was an unconstitutional law. So we have some footage that I want you to see. And my concern is, okay, where do we go from here? What's going to happen now? Because we have, as a nation, and of course the state of Arkansas has concurred, no more abortions in Arkansas except to save the life of the mother. So as a nation, we are no longer going to be legally funding abortion, the killing of unborn babies. Now that in itself is unprecedented, and we're definitely going to see an effect from that, a positive effect from God's perspective, because we're no longer killing babies. And it says in Proverbs, the things that God hates is when you murder the unborn. It doesn't say it that way, but it's talking about taking an innocent life. So we should see what those that are looking into this, we should see a third great awakening. And I'll tell you what that is in just a minute. Let's watch this. You've probably seen it, but here is Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, and I'll be right back after this.
Nearly 50 years ago, on January 22nd, 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court of the United States issued its opinion in Roe v. Wade. Because of this wrongly decided opinion, millions of innocent lives have been lost to abortion. None of us thought today would come in our lifetimes. Roe was wrong on that day, and it has been wrong every day since. I have a long history of fighting for the unborn, and that is why Arkansas is the most pro-life state in the United States of America. Because of my team's efforts to defend the great laws passed by the state of Arkansas and protect the innocent lives against the ACLU and Planned Parenthood and the likes of the radical left, we are prepared to immediately ban abortion in Arkansas with the overturn of Roe v. Wade. And today, the U.S. Supreme Court issued its opinion in Mississippi case Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. This case focused on a state law banning abortions after 15 weeks, except in medical emergencies. The case argued that Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey should be overturned and that states should be allowed to regulate abortion, not the federal government. On this historic day, the United States Supreme Court agreed. The court held that Roe was egregiously wrong and deeply damaging. For reasons already explained, Roe's constitutional analysis was far beyond the bounds of any reasonable interpretation of the various constitutional provisions to which it vaguely pointed. Roe was on a collision course with the Constitution from the day it was decided, and Casey perpetuated its errors, and those errors do not concern some hidden corner of the law of little importance to the American people. Rather, wielding nothing but raw judicial power, the court seized the power to address a question of profound moral and social importance that the Constitution unequivocally leaves for the people. This overturns the legal precedent that federal district courts and courts of appeal across the country have used to strike down pro-life laws like Arkansas's. This decision essentially puts our pro-life laws in place and allows Arkansas to ban abortion, with the only exception being to save the life of a mother, defined as a medical emergency.
So what the court decided was that Roe versus Wade was unconstitutional. It was a wrong decision and should have never been, so they reversed it. Now the responsibility goes back to the individual states to decide what they want to do about abortion. Well, Arkansas and about 13 or dozen or more states have already anticipated this and already provided what's called trigger laws. The dissolution, the reversal of Roe versus Wade triggered Arkansas law that prevents abortion except in the life to save the life of the mother. So now America is, quote, no longer in the abortion business. That means something scripturally. That means something to God. Now, different states have taken different stands. You can go to California, New York, some of the western states you can go and get abortions, but not in that cluster of southern states in the middle of the country. While this event was being broadcast across the nation, around the world, while the Attorney General was making her speech there, I was in Branson, Missouri, with the National Association of Christian Lawmakers. This is an organization that was founded by Senator Jason Rapert, one of our state senators. I sit on the governing board of that organization. And this was formed because there are so many state legislators, male, female, Senate, House, in all 50 states. There's so many legislators that are born-again Christians that are fighting the good fight of faith. And Senator Rapert discerned the need to minister to these people. So this was our third annual conference held in Branson, Missouri, at the College of the Ozarks. We were in our first session of the day on Friday, June 24th, 2022. And we were interrupted by this announcement that the Supreme Court had just reversed Roe versus Wade. Folks, I cannot explain to you, I did a little video with my phone, I cannot explain to you how that impacted our conference and how it impacted 26. We had 26 states represented. That's half the population of America. 26 states represented by senators, congressmen. We have 26 chairs that chair NACL in different states. And I tell you what, when the announcement was made, there was applause, there was shouting, there was praising God, there were hands lifted up, and there were tears. It's so refreshing to see all the years of labor by so many people. National Right to Life, Arkansas Right to Life, all of the lobbyists, all of the senators, the congressmen, congresswomen that have labored, all of the church members that have labored and protested quietly and reverently, and those people that have worked so hard to save the lives of these babies. And keep in mind, now I don't want to get into the this and the that, but from our perspective as Christians, our perspective is about life. You know, we're not going into a woman's right to choose and arguing all that. It's about life. Think of all the babies now that just in a few days were saved, that live today because of this law. Now, with that said, there's definitely going to be a spiritual awakening. Regardless of those that are angry, mad, threatening, regardless of those that didn't want this, regardless of those that are going to continue to fight for the right to abort children and kill babies, there is going to be a spiritual awakening, a manifestation of the Spirit of God from the heavenlies, simply because, on America, simply because America made the decision we are no longer going to justify the killing of these babies and make it the law of the land. That's the issue. The issue is the fact that America is out of the abortion business as far as the Supreme Court and the law of the land is concerned. There's still abortions going on. There's still states that will be abortion sanctuaries. But America has decided, according to the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land, America has decided that Roe versus Wade is no longer and never was a constitutional right. That is heavy. That is going to open us up to God's blessing. So my purpose this week is to inform you to look for, expect this third great awakening. And as Andrew Womack said, God told him it has already started. But what is it? What can we expect? Go with me over to 2 Chronicles 7:14. Excuse me. This is the scripture that we always refer to. We pray in our national prayer gatherings as individuals. 2 Chronicles chapter 7 and verse 14. And I've dealt with this before. This was actually in its original intent, this was actually a reference to the nation of Israel. You can tell by the language. If my people, those are the Jewish people, the Israeli people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, Then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now, while that was aimed primarily at the nation of Israel, we and any country, any peoples can take that and lift it out of its setting, and you can use this as a basis for your appeal to God. Go with me over to Psalm 33 and look at verse 12. Psalm 33, verse 12. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people whom he hath chosen for his own inheritance. Now, you've heard it said maybe this also refers to Israel because God chose Israel. America chose God. The difference in the two. God chose Israel. God cut covenant with Israel. Now, I'm going to get into some areas that there's probably lots of disagreement or debate about. God cut covenant with Israel. Now, I know there are those that are prophesying and forecasting America's future, etc. People have different ideas of America. There is no place in the Bible, Old or New Testament, where America is mentioned by name. There's no reference to the United States of America or America in the Scriptures. This is not a criticism, it's an observation. It's just simply not there. There are those that say, well, we're the young lion. We're one of the young lions. And it talks about the young lions. And I've heard that out of England, the old lion, so to speak, came the young lions. England gave birth to these young nations: Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand. So many prophetic teachers feel like America is included as a young lion. I'm not here to argue the point, but the issue is there's no mention of America in the Bible. Then there are those that say that America mirrors the image of Babylon. And of course, you read about Babylon, you know the end result of Babylon. And there are those that say if America doesn't change her ways, that America will suffer like Babylon, ultimately destroyed. But now Babylon is not destroyed until the end of the tribulation period. So you got to be careful with all these parallels and the speculation and conjecture. Just stick with the Word as much as we know, and we're going to experience the blessings of God if we continue in the things of God. So I don't see any reference where God cut covenant with America, because there's no mention of America in the Bible. But God did cut covenant with Israel. God cut covenant with Israel. They were his chosen people. So 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people, Psalm 33 verse 12 says, the people that he had chosen for his own inheritance. So Israel, and I'm going to have more to say about this later in the week, Israel is very important. America is to be commended for being a friend to Israel. Genesis 12:3 says, if you bless Israel, you get blessed. If you curse Israel, you get cursed. The nations that cursed Israel have all disappeared off of the map. They no longer exist. But America continues to be blessed and prosper because we have befriended Israel. And keep this in mind. I'll deal with it later. Satan's, how would I say, his number one weapon is deception. And he is trying to deceive the people of America, the politicians of America. If we don't continue to be a friend of Israel, we could be cursed. But as long as we continue to be a friend of Israel, we're going to be blessed. Because Israel is the bullseye of Satan's target. He really is after Israel. Always has been and always will be. Even the fanatical, radical Islamic countries call Israel the little Satan, America the big Satan. I don't know why they say that, but if you want to take this analogy, we're the big Satan because we are shielding Israel. We are helping Israel. We are protecting Israel. As long as America protects and stands with Israel, we're always going to be a target of Satan because he wants to get to Israel. He wants to destroy Israel. He wants to take them off the map, and that's what the Islamic fascists all say. They don't want to cut covenant with Israel. They want to destroy Israel. But God cut covenant with Israel. Now, America chose God. God chose Israel, but America chose God. Now, let's go and read. I want to read this. This is a book that was printed by the DeMoss Foundation. It's about the nation of America, but I want you to listen to this. In the beginning, at the point in God's good time when the Constitutional Convention had completed its work, there was a lady that sidled up to Ben Franklin and said, "Well, Dr. Franklin, what have you given us?" And Franklin said to her, "You have a republic, madam, if you can keep it." That's a whole message in itself. There had been other governments before America that had gone by the description of the word republic, but they were of a different origin and a different nature. So this new creation, this new country, this new government stood unique. Listen to this: a system of self-government by the consent of the governed. Now that's America. Self-government by the consent of the governed. And you'll find this in Romans chapter 13. And we'll read that a little bit later. A constitutional republic with individual liberty, elected representatives, and a limited government. A government with its powers nailed down, fastened, and confined to the proper defense of the individual to his pursuits of life, liberty, property, and happiness. These inalienable rights endowed by the Creator. A republic in which the power to govern was checked and balanced by devices designed to stop a tyrant in his tracks. Now, this is a new nation, a republic, not a democracy. Now, somebody uses the term a democratic republic, but America is a republic which is a nation governed by law, and the Constitution is that law. We're not a democracy where 51% can lord it over the other 49. So that's who America is. And listen to the words that were used to describe this new nation. The Constitution was designed to perpetuate a Christian order. A Constitution that will only work if you abide by and understand Romans 13. It's not freedom from religion, it's freedom of religion. Separation of church and state? Absolutely. Divorcement of God from government? Never. Now, here is a statement by Supreme Court decision in 1892. Our laws and institutions must necessarily be based upon and embody the teachings of the Redeemer. It is impossible that it should be otherwise. And in this sense and to this extent, our civilization and institutions are emphatically Christian. Now, these are the founders. This is a religious people. This is historically true from the discovery of this continent to the present hour. Christopher Columbus wrote in his diary that he was sent by the Spirit of God, not by mathematical computation or compass or map, but by the Spirit of the living God. This is our history. We find everywhere a clear recognition of the same. These and many other matters which might be noticed in a volume of unofficial declarations to the mass of organic utterance that this is a Christian nation. This is a Christian nation. And they go on to say that this country cannot function. It is to perpetuate a Christian order, and that the founding of this nation and all of its laws were to perpetuate a Christian order. And it cannot continue if we do not understand and recognize that. Now let's go over to Romans chapter 13. And I want you to read this with me. That's why the Constitution and all of our founding documents, Declaration of Independence, everything, it will not work unless we understand that the United States of America was designed and created a Christian nation. We may not be able to finish this today, but we'll continue this tomorrow. Romans 13, verse 1, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there's no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Now, we vote and put the people in the office. Those powers, those positions are ordained of God. But we fill those positions with people that we vote for. Therefore, whosoever resisteth the power resisteth the ordination of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. I'm going to stop there for today. We'll pick this up tomorrow. And remember, we're talking about the third great awakening. What is that? What does that mean? So I encourage you to join me for tomorrow's Arkansas Live. Remember, Jesus is Lord of Arkansas, and where you're watching too.
Send your questions, comments, and testimonies to Happy Caldwell at Post Office Box 26207, Little Rock, Arkansas 72221, or email happycaldwell@vtntv.com. Remember to follow VTN on Facebook at VTN Your Arkansas Christian Connection, and follow Happy Caldwell on Twitter at Happy_Caldwell. VTN is on Roku. Search VTN in the channel store and add us to your lineup. Today's episode is available to watch on demand at VTNTV.com and click Watch. You can also watch VTN via live stream at VTNTV.com.